Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today I apologize it's so late in the day, but I had my grandson here all day. We watch him 3 days a week. Miraculously, after they all left last Saturday and announced they had COVID on Sunday, neither my husband nor I got sick, and the infant never got sick. Never caught it. It's weird. It's weird. At any rate, so everybody's healthy and everybody's good. And I wanted to do an homage video in honor of Pamela Colman Smith, because today would have been her birthday. Now, I forget what year she was born. I should have looked it up before I did the video. But she died I know in 51, because I think she died 7 years before I was born. So she lived a while ago. She was a young woman when she did the tarot deck that I will show in unison with a brand new deck hot off the press. Well, I think it's hot off the press. It's new to me. And I thought that it would be nice to do an homage to Pamela Colman Smith, comparing her 1909, and this is a copy from an original that's owned by Miss Jansen. And I spoke to her within the past month, and she told me, that this version by Conrad Steyn, Steyn, that you can get over at makeplayingcards.com, is still to this day the closest to the original. Now, I think the only thing, I don't think it'll ever be perfectly the same, because of the way it's printed. Today's printing doesn't quite sync with the way it used to be. So I think there's limitations in how exact any colors will ever be. But at any rate, I figured I'd use this deck since it's the closest deck to what she would have seen. This was the one that was published after she had her hand in it, right? And I thought I'd compare this deck with the Erenberg Tarot, which is pretty new. I think it, it arrived today. I think I had to put it on order, and the art attracted me. Now, it's not an old historic deck. It's fashioned after Rider-Waite-Smith, but I thought it might be a nice occasion to show her deck against one of the brand newest decks based on her deck, well over 100 years after she lived, 120 years, something like that, 115 years after, not after she lived, but after her, after this original deck is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, it's been a long day. I've had a 4-month-old all day. I'm tired. So anyway, I thought that would be a nice thing to do. So let me flip the camera and we will get started. What I want to mention is that I bought a book. It's a Kindle book. I don't want to lose my spot, but it's really a good book. I figured I'd read it today in her honor, but I never really got around to reading too much of it because I had the baby. Okay, so like I said, I'm using the 1909 Lilies back. This one published by Conrad Steyn, available over at makeplayingcards.com. With this deck, the Erenberg Tarot by Steve Erenberg, fashioned after the 1909 Rider-Waite-Smith deck, created by Pamela Colman Smith. And I thought, what better way to give an homage to her than to do a side-by-side comparison against one of the thousands and thousands of tarot decks which were inspired by her. Now, in all fairness to the Erenberg Tarot, when I get a new deck, I usually just showcase it by itself, but today I'm showcasing it against hers. But I will do some readings with it within the next few days. So it comes with a nice booklet published by US Game Systems Inc. And I usually use a deck and peruse a deck before I read about it. So the The box is really sturdy, a nice sturdy box. And since it's got another plastic, I'm going to go off camera to take it off so that you don't have to endure that with me. All right, the backs of the Erenberg are like harlequin design, the kind of pattern you see on clowns, you know, the harlequin design. Now, I'm not sure if I have them in the exact same order. Obviously, the Triumph cards will be in the same order, but we'll see about the rest. So the Fool card of the Erenberg is not really based on this Rider-Waite-Smith Fool, since we have more of a jester kind of harlequin theme going on with it. And he is identified by his hat. Like the Rider-Waite-Smith, he is designated the number 0, and he's called the Fool. That's very interesting. It's just a close-up feature. And the Magician is also identified by his hat, called the Magician. Like the Rider-Waite-Smith Magician, he has a wand, which is lit, and he's got like Merlin's cap on his head. But in the sense that this Magician is exalted, right? This Magician of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is not the con man. He's not the street, the street fella who comes around with, the showman of, right? This Magician is very much like the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition in that he's a magician. He's literally a magician. Okay, another person who's identified by her headgear, the High Priestess, and she's given that same name. Now we see the pomegranate appearing here, and this is probably the pomegranate seeds in the background, as we see here. On the High Priestess, again with a pomegranate and with the wheat, or the chaff of wheat, I guess. Did I say that proper? And in the Waite-Coleman-Smith tradition, the Emperor with the Ankh. And I like a nod to the old historic decks. He's got a globe. I'm not sure if that's a ram's head, which that is. Another individual identified by his headgear. This is so interesting. The Hierophant, given the modern name rather than the Pope. In both, they're doing the hand gesture of a blessing or a Benedictine. Is that what that's called? Triple tier crown here, as well as there. And here we have a pillar as well. Oh, I like how they handled the Lover's card. Very nice. With a nod to the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent with the apple tree. Here we have the apple tree and the serpent going up the tree. I'm not crazy about the Sphinx driving the chariot, but it is a nod, it is in keeping with Rider-Waite-Smith, so I guess that makes sense. And interestingly, the charioteer is not, or the chariot is not identified by the headgear, but rather by the Sphinx and this breastplate. I guess that's a breastplate. Or is that part of the chariot? I'm not sure. I guess it's part of the chariot. Oh, wow. When I was a preteen, my mother made me a Leo medallion, which doesn't look exactly like this, but it reminds me of this. And I have it, and I have it in this room, and I'm going to grab it. Here it is. So that gives me the warm, fuzzy feeling. The Strength card now connecting me to my mother. I am connected to the Strength card. I'll show you the wall art I have up here. I have a beautiful Strength, I think, lithograph by the folks over at Artisan Tarot. Kristen did that for me. Isn't that gorgeous? And then my daughter gave me one also for Strength. And it's, I'm connected to my mother by the Strength card. When I did a tarot deck, when I fashioned a card for a tarot deck, I did the Strength card in honor of my mother. And just seeing that this card, has a Strength emblem, has a lion emblem medallion. I'm going to wear this. I'm going to find a chain. I'm going to wear it. It inspired me to get a chain. So this one is not focused on the headpiece, but that's a clever way of putting the lion, right? Make it go back to the normal size. And the hermit is identified by his lantern. Isn't that interesting? We have the carnival man's hat. Wow, now blindfolded. The Justice card is blindfolded, no sword. So all these years later, the thousands and thousands and thousands of Rider-Waite-Smith based cards, decks that have been created. And she died penniless. Just think she'd be a trillionaire. She'd be so rich. I guess she'd have all the wealth that Stuart Kaplan had. So notice the focus on this deck is hanging by the feet, which, although he is here as well, it seems more focused on the method rather than bringing to mind the old school hanging by the foot, right? There's no reference to someone who's awake or anything like that. He's just it's the punishment we're focusing on here. Oh yes, and I meant to show, of course, since this is as close a reproduction to the 1909 deck as possible. These are the backs. I'm sorry if I'm not as articulate. Not that I'm ever that articulate, to be honest, but I'm tired. I put in a full day with a 4-month-old, and I didn't want the day to go by without acknowledging Pamela Colman Smith. Wow, that's a cool death card. So I like the Erenberg Tarot because so far, at least with the Triumph cards, it focuses on the essentials. I think there's only one card so far that I might not have been able to identify with what it is. I got that one. I'd get that one. I'd get that one. Well, I think I'd get that one. No, I guess I'd get them all. I guess I'd get them all so far. Definitely would get them all. And there's no mistaking this guy. Oh, I love the star card. Oh my gosh. Oh, the celestial card is right up my alley. As is this one. This one reminds me of that old movie, that old silent film movie, which is just, I don't know, I forget who did it. Was it Mermaid? I forget. Little rocket ship. Ah, so the celestial cards are awesome. Beautiful. Now we have flowers. They're not the same flowers, but we get the sense of flowers maybe coming out of a flower box. A beautiful day. Okay, now this is Judgment. And we get the sense of somebody rising from the dead with the angel with his wing here and the horn. Ah, now I'd have to read what they have to say about choosing ballerina feet for the world card, because I wouldn't necessarily understand this to be the world card, so I'd have to look it up. And we do have clear references to astrological notations, which I haven't noticed on the other cards. That doesn't mean they weren't there. I just didn't notice them. Shall I read what it says about the world card? Okay, well, I'll just read the last sentence or two. It says its appearance in our reading reminds us that when we fully embrace the whole, we can enter the flow of life like a dancer who becomes one with the music. Complete whole. So I guess that's the connection to the ballerina feet. And maybe it occurred to Erenberg that she does sort of look like she's dancing, so maybe that was a little bit of an inspiration. Ah, look at this Ace of Cups. Beautiful. So we see the lily pads here, and we have the lotus flower here. Again, we have the lion. Now this Erenberg, I don't know where I saw it. I saw it like 2 or 3 days ago, and I saw like a grouping, like several in a group, and I thought, wow, that would make a beautiful like 13 card spread when I do my signature spread. I thought, wow, that would be so nice. In fact, you know, the next video I'll do a 13 cards. I'll do my signature spread using these cards, and I thought they were striking. So then I went to Amazon just to see if they were available, and it was like pre-order right now. So I was like, okay. So I pre-ordered, and it was I think it was under 30, definitely under $30. And I had some credit on Amazon, so I got it for like 15. But then we definitely get a sense of a celebration of fun. We have some flowers, and that looks like a feminine hand. So it definitely looks like a fun celebration. Ah, wow. And this looks like it projects the ennui of this card, doesn't it? Disenchantment, boredom, taking something for granted, maybe. I think it communicates that very well. Loss. And here we have the child sniffing a flower as opposed to being given one, although she might be given one. We don't know how it's being presented to her. She's got her little red hat on, just like here. We have indications of a house in the back, the same sort of house too. Look, see? Same house is in the back. That's charming. What a nice presentation of the Seven of Cups. Isn't this lovely? So the thing that I'm noticing is that the Erenberg doesn't concern itself with showing 8 cups, for example. It just has a symbol of the cup and the word 8 and the image, which is very reminiscent of what we have seen in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. I'm not sure, but it might be the only deck that does that, Are there other decks that don't show, for example, 9 cups? In fact, there's no cup in this image here at all, except for down here in the corner. Okay, so the 9, this is great, because this is like the wish fulfillment card, the 9 of Cups. And so this kind of reminds me of like a genie in a bottle where you get a wish. That's what this reminds me of. And so I think that's how this card is tying into the 9 of Cups. This is more like a Falstaff kind of image, right? Like a theatrical image. But the 9 of Cups has traditionally kind of become a textbook example of like the wish fulfillment. And I see it as that. It's one of the things that I'll say if it fits the context of the question. But this definitely expresses that very nicely. As does the 10 of Cups. What a lovely deck. I think I could use this deck. There's my boyfriend. He's got his fish. In modern decks, my boyfriend is quite different than the one that enchants me. But he's still my boyfriend. Just new clothes, that's all. Now here in the original, we have the ocean or water. Wavy water here. We have the reference to water with the fish. It's enough. Fish out of water. We know it's a knight because of his hand gear. He's got a feather. Interesting. Well, this guy has wings on his helmet. And he's got fish on his cup. I don't think the other one had a cup. Oh, yeah, there's no cup. Look at that. There's no cup. And we definitely get the idea that she is the Queen of Cups, with reference to the ocean and mermaids and lovely. And the King. The Rider-Waite-Smith has all kinds of details that, for those of you who have studied it for years, you can spend a lot of time studying all the little details, right? It wasn't until today that I either remembered or noticed, and I didn't mention it, but I think the Fool card is the only card that does not have Pamela Colman Smith's signature or her, initials. I think it's the only card where it does not appear, unless it's somewhere, in this stuff. But you can get lost in studying the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's not a stupid deck, And we owe a lot to her, because without, her creating a deck that was more modern and perhaps at that time more appealing, to, and also it was embracing esotericism, I'm saying it wrong, so you know what I'm trying to say. You know, it opened, you know, it made it fresh for, you know, made tarot fresh for a new generation of people. And then consequently, thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of tarot decks have been fashioned after her deck, right? So it's just like, I thought it would be fun to just compare a brand new Rider-Waite, hot off the presses kind of deal. You know, I pre-ordered it a couple days ago and it arrived today because my pre-order was just perfect timing with her birthday. It arrived today. Now, for whatever reasons, Arthur Waite decided to use pentagrams, pentacles rather, excuse me. Oh, somehow I got my cards mixed up, excuse me. So here we have an artisan, right? And we have the tools of the artisan. So I think we would figure that out. Wow, okay. Tethered down by greed or held back. Being too dependent or interested in the worldly. Oh, we definitely get the sense of that. It definitely communicates that, as does this. A windfall, generosity. And we have now someone who's not, you know, he's not, I presume the fella in the Three of Pentacles has now become the fella in the Eight of Pentacles, where maybe now he has his own shop, right? You know, it really took me by surprise to see that medallion on the Empress, because this deck connected me to my mother. You know, it's almost like hearing my mother say, hey, I love you. I pay attention to signs, you know. So here we have the falcon. Is that a falcon or a peregrine? I don't know what they are. But there he is with grapes, which I presume those are. Yep, those are grapes. So I think Erenberg did a great job in getting the essence of the Rider-Waite-Smith with just with less of the image, you know, just focusing in or honing in on a certain aspect of the card that would just bring it home, you know. Here we have the elder gentleman. That's his estate, I presume. And we have again the grapes, which I presume are in here. Yeah, there they are. There's the grapes. There's what he's accomplished. And he's got his doggy. Oh, look at that. He's got a Rake. A bunny. Prosperity, good fortune, luck. The accomplished one. Wow, his hand is transparent. Isn't that interesting? So, isn't it a coincidence that my cards are in the same order? That's interesting. Two of Swords. Not blindfolded. Oh, I was wondering how they would illustrate the Three of Hearts. Excuse me, the Three of Swords. So we have a hat pin here with a heart and sadness. And that's it. And then we have a sword symbol. I'm looking forward to using this deck, to be honest. Four of Swords, I think we'd get that. A Knight in Repose. Five of Swords. A struggle. Maybe somebody defending themselves. Here we have the mother and the babe crossing the waters. But now we see their faces. And we see where they're leaving. Well, that's an interesting Seven of Swords. Huh. I'm not sure I get it. Let's look it up. Okay, it says, the mask signifies deception in all its forms, but especially in the realm of thoughts, speech, and information. Oh, there's the connection. Deception. Now, the curious thing about the order is that I don't typically keep the decks in that order, and yet this deck is in that order. I almost can't believe I put it in that order, to be honest. It's so strange. Okay, now what's going on here? Somebody whose head is just lost in despair, clouded thoughts, clouded mind. It's almost surreal, like a Magritte painting, right? Because I keep my cards in sequential order, swords, cups, batons, and coins. And for whatever reason, it's not how I had this deck. It's not how I put that deck away, which is odd. And it just coincidentally is in the same sequence as this deck was brought to me, which is kind of blows my mind, to be honest. The Knight of Swords, he means business. Oh, he's scary. I would not want to meet him. Oy. Not want to meet him. And I don't think that's her hand. Interesting. I'm not sure I'd want to meet this guy either. Ugh. I don't get the same sense of fright or fear from the courts of the Rider-Waite-Smith, but I get a chill looking at the court cards of the Suit of Swords of the Erenberg. Wow, I can't believe it. These are in the same sequence. I can't get over it. Ace of Wands. Again, the hand is transparent. Get a sense of wanderlust, right? He's got his telescope, looking out. Oh, we definitely get a sense of a festive feeling, something to celebrate. Conflict. And I think we get enough of the sameness, the victor with his horse and his laurel wreath and his wreath on his baton. Two different shoes. I probably have to read this. This looks like he's almost shooting a branch as a bow and arrow. Taking action. And yes, I most certainly will be reading the booklet. Okay, like a burden, heavy weight. We have the salamander here. The youth of batons, or wands, excuse me. Real sense of action, but we get that here too. Get the black cat. Your cat made it into the Queen of Wands, Pixie. I don't typically refer to her as Pixie. I don't know what made me say Pixie. I usually just refer to her as Pamela Colman Smith, or Pamela, Pamela Colman Smith, or Miss Smith or something, And the King of Wands. So I hope you enjoyed this side-by-side comparison, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the Erenberg, which is as brand new a deck as I think any of them. It's a very, very, very recent. I pre-ordered it earlier in the week and I got it today, so I guess it's pretty new. So I hope you enjoyed this remembrance of Pamela Colman Smith on today, her birthday. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well. I will be doing a demonstration reading using this deck, the Erenberg, within the next day or two, probably tomorrow. Peace.